Hello everybody, how you doing? I got another movie review for you today, and it's kind of a different one. It's from the producers of The Raid, and that's what caught my attention when I saw the box just randomly sitting at Best Buy. You see, I got it from Best Buy, as it says right there, Best Buy. If you can't read that, it says Best Buy. That's where I found this. And it said, from the producers of The Raid. That's what caught my eye. It's called The Killers. And I was like, ooh, that looks interesting. And that guy's from The Raid. And I read some of the reviews on it. It said, a terrifyingly brilliant psychological thriller. Killer successfully plots twisting moral dilemmas. One of the most interesting, disturbing, provocative takes on the world of the serial killer ever made. Savage, immoral, utterly depraved. Now, I read those reviews. I looked up online. I didn't get it right. I didn't get it right away when I bought it. I left it there. I got the Babadook instead, which I plan on reviewing, and I also got an MST3K set, but then I realized, oh wait, I already have that set, so I returned it, and with the money that I got from returning it, I bought this. This was cheaper than the set, but I was stupid and I didn't already have that set because, you know, they all start blending together at a certain point. But if you're a big fan of that show like me, you gotta keep up with that collection. Now, one thing I do have to appreciate about this is that this movie has not been rated by the MPAA, so this means it's probably did not get a theatrical release here in the United States. This was probably a direct-to-video release here in the U.S., and apparently this was a 2013 film, and this now recently got released. So, what do I think of this movie? It's really good. Let's get to the plot. I'm going to read from the back. A series of horrific murders just went viral. Posted anonymously by the handsome and seductive Nomura, a predator with a taste for torture. Thousands of miles away, disgraced journalist Bayu can't stop watching, and in a reckless moment discovers he too can kill. Now, it's interesting because we're going over something like this in one of my classes at school. Counterpoint flash fiction, where this movie does what that is. One perspective, then another perspective, then another perspective, then another perspective. It's like that throughout the entire film. Do yourself a favor, don't read the back of the box. It gives away something that happens at the end, and it hypes up what's happening at the end a little too much than what actually does wind up happening. It has a good ending, but it's not as hyped as as they explain it on the back. Oka Antara, I can't pronounce his name, I'm sorry. That's him, if anyone was wondering. And that's Kazuki Kitamura. Both of them, phenomenal in this. They are wonderful. They're the type of killers where I wasn't siding with them, but I also wasn't mad at them for doing what they were doing. The kills in this movie are pretty gruesome. Most of them are unfortunately done to women, but he's a serial killer. That's not saying this is okay, if anyone's wondering. It's just saying this guy just lost his mind, and it explains throughout why he's doing this. And of course, not siding with him at all. Don't condone his behavior at all. But the movie unfolds to where it's understandable why he's doing it. Not acceptable, but understandable. And Bayu, Oka's character, he's probably one of the most relatable psychopaths I've seen. He's more of a vigilante type in this movie. He goes after the baddies and then he kills them. It's not along the lines of something, you know, like John Wick. He's not that type of vigilante or the Punisher. He doesn't kill that many people in the movie. He kills... No, I'm not going to spoil how many he kills, but the body count's not as huge. It's not even that big of a body count of a movie. It's not along the lines of, you know, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, The Burning, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even. It's basically, they'll find somebody and then they'll bring him back and they'll kill him and then record it. This is basically all those horror movies that were made that had the killer kill somebody and put it online for everyone to see. This is basically that Untraceable, I think it was called. And what's the other one? .com for murder. This is basically, I think it was .com. No, was it .com for murder? Fear.com. Fear.com. And I also think .com for Murder. This is basically those movies done right. This is a very well done film. It's a very slow paced film. This isn't action along the lines of The Raid. And even though it says produced from The Raid, it's not The Raid 3. It's its own beast. It's a psychological horror thriller, and it's phenomenal. It has a dark sense of humor about it too, which I appreciate. I think the Raid movies also kind of had that. And there's just this gross feeling throughout the entire movie, and not just through the characters, but the way it's filmed. It just seems to work. The only problem I have is that I've seen this guy fight, and he gets his, and people attack him and beat him up a lot. I've seen him fight in The Raid, and I think he was also in Fast and Furious 6. I know he can fight, so seeing people like attack him and him not being able to get out of it kind of took me out of it. But that's not a complaint on the movie. That's just how I perceive it, because he did rock in The Raid, and if he was the character from Fast and Furious 6, then he also kicked it in that as well. And then he's not the only one who was in The Raid. I think Kazuki was in one of the Raid films. I think, but I'm not positive, because he does look extremely familiar. I have to look him up after this. And also, Dorma, this character named Dorma, I think that's how it's pronounced. He was the crime boss in the first Raid, and then his lawyer, he's this little guy, was the occult leader in VHS 2 and the segment Safe Haven. I'm almost certain that was him. So there's a lot of recurring characters in this movie from other Indonesian films. And that's really cool to see. I love seeing characters that are from other films in movies like this. The soundtrack is really cool. It's trippy and eerie at times. There's a scene where the guy does coke and then just starts getting all distorted. And that's a great scene. That's a gruesome scene. There's this one scene that almost is like The Raid, where he's trying to escape a hotel, not going to say why, but he's trying to get out, and then all these guards are attacking him. And I want to see him fight, but I know it's not that type of movie, so it gets a pass. It still is a good suspenseful scene. This is a very suspenseful movie, and I highly recommend it. It keeps the focus. It's like the entire time I was just interested to see what happened next. And the ending, that's one of the biggest nail-biter endings I've seen in a movie in a long time. It doesn't have big rewatch value like The Raid does. I could probably watch this with friends, but I wouldn't watch it again and again and again and again. I'm not going to get too mad I got it cheap. It was only like $13, so it's not that big of a loss at all. Definitely a great film. But I do have to say this: it's not the fault of the movie. It's the fault of the people that released it here. What's this company's name? Well, Go USA Entertainment. Okay. I haven't seen any of these companies' other releases, but the subtitles, they managed to screw them up so bad. I don't speak the languages in this movie. I speak a very little bit of Japanese. I'm not an otaku. It's just something I picked up when I took martial arts. And Indonesian. I don't speak Indonesian at all. I don't know what the. It just says Indonesian on here, so I'm just gonna call it Indonesian. It's in English subtitles. And there's a question mark randomly placed in it. There's some words that are capitalized that shouldn't be. There's some comma errors. There's a lot of grammatical errors throughout it, and whether or not they needed someone better doing the subtitles. They needed someone who was paying more attention while I was doing it, or had someone watch it through and then edit it over. Maybe they just didn't want to watch the movie again because it is a dark movie. It's a very depressing movie. It's, depressing along the lines of the movie like Frontiers or Girl Next Door, Martyrs. This is basically if Martyrs has a plot. That's a good way of putting it. It doesn't have the same type of ending, but it's kind of the vibe I get from it when I watch it. Is like, yes, this is Martyrs with a better plot-wise. But do I recommend it? Absolutely. Absolutely. Check it out. Buy it on Blu-ray. As of now, it's not too expensive if you get it at Best Buy. I don't know how long their deal's lasting. Or rent it from Redbox, if Redbox have it. Just to try and find a way to watch it. It's worth watching. It is great. I highly recommend it. I give it a 4 out of 5. The only reason I can't give it a perfect 5 is because it does kind of drag on. It's a little too long. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes. And with the exception of the Raid 2, the Raid 2 is borderline 3 hours long, but the Raid 2 at least doesn't feel it. This sometimes can feel its length. But aside from that, it is a great movie. It's not a splatter flick along the lines of the Raid, but does have good gore scenes. It's similar to I Saw the Devil in the sense that going into this, just go for a good story, good acting, all that stuff. It's not cat and mouse like I Saw the Devil, but it has the feel that I Saw the Devil has. Anyways, definitely recommend it. Check it out if you get the chance, and I hope to catch you guys later. Peace.